see her visitor. When Olive would take the coffee tray upstairs for the two women, her mother would wave her off. "Connie will catch me up on things," Daisy would say. "You go on now." And for an hour, Olive would escape, walking a wide circuit along the seafront to the mouth of the Blythe, breathing in the salt air and not caring if the north wind was pushing her along or driving her back. In one of Daisy's less lucid moments, not long before she died, she'd referred to Binny as that wittering witch. It was only then the penny had dropped. All that time, Daisy had put up with the visits and never complained, so that Olive could have a brief respite from the sick-room and its duties. That had been her mother's way. Little kindnesses given freely throughout her life. "I'm quite concerned about you," Miss Binny said to Olive. "If only Donald had made it through the war, he would be happily married now and could take care of you." Olive knew that her brother, who had died at Dunkirk, would certainly have taken care of her, but she thought the possibility that he would be happily married was remote. "It was his way, wasn't it?" Binny asked. "He was such a good boy. But now, Olive, what will you do with yourself?" "Not to worry." Olive didn't take her own advice. She had worried every minute of every day the last few months, until the worry had woven itself into the fabric of her being. £3 4 and 6 in her post office account, and no prospects to speak of. All her worldly possessions could fit in those two cases upstairs. She, Donald, and their parents had lived in the terrace house Olive's entire life, but they had only rented, never owned. Olive couldn't even count the kettle or the dishes and saucepans as possessions. Not any longer, at least. She'd traded the lot to pay one more month's rent, and the clock was ticking. "Have you found a position?" Miss Binny inquired. That she must find paid work was quite clear to Olive, but what sort? She knew her limitations. At 37 years old, she had experience in keeping house and looking after someone, and so she had aimed high, setting her sights on becoming companion to a young woman. Some well-to-do families believed their daughters were safer with an older woman employed to keep an eye on things. Surely Olive qualified for that. But nothing had come of the 4 newspaper advertisements she'd answered, one as far away as Carlisle. She then lowered her expectations. If not a young woman, Olive could be the younger companion to someone older than herself. And if not a companion, a housekeeper. If not a housekeeper, was she too old for factory work? "I've received some encouragement," Olive replied as she stood and turned to the cooker to hide her red cheeks. "Would you like more coffee?" "Yes, thank you." Olive poured, replenished the hot milk, and sat down again. "I do hope this will work out for you, dear, but it must be difficult, as you have no previous position and therefore no references." Miss Binny leaned over the table and in a conspiratorial tone said, "I might have a solution for you, I might just. You remember, Olive, I had a young cousin with me 3 years ago. She needed to be away from her family, and I was happy to offer her shelter and guidance." Olive remembered a scared-looking girl who had lived with Binny for 6 or 8 months. She cooked, she cleaned, she scurried after the woman round town, and at last she had gone back to her family. Olive had said goodbye to her and wished her well. It might have been the only time she'd seen the girl smile. "I do remember her, yes. Isn't she married now?" "She is," Binny said, voicing a wealth of disapproval with only 2 words. "But you see, Olive, in only that short time I realized how much good I could do by taking someone in who may need help, in exchange for company and the odd household chore." A cold, creeping dread came over Olive as Binny continued to describe a scene that might have come out of a Charles Dickens story. Desperate and destitute girl taken in by, in this case, an overbearing, rigid woman who seemed bent on distorting the qualities of Christian charity. Before her very eyes, Constance Binny grew in size until Olive's vision was filled with a beaky nose, a bobbing pheasant tail.